Tutorial 8, Review Assignment. We begin by opening a file called Rentals, and we save that file as Discount Rentals. Fill in the documentation worksheet and then access the Customer sheet. We want to enter some range names. A quick way to do multiple range names is to highlight the whole area. So I want to range name this cell B4 with that name, customer name, and B5 with type of car, etc. So if I highlight this whole area and I go to Formulas, Create from Selection, Left Column, and click OK, I just named those. So you see as I click on this cell how it's called Customer Name, and this is called Type of Car. Okay, the next thing we want to name is this table here. We're going to end up using this table in a lookup. And so I'm going to just range name that by clicking in the name box, and we're going to call this rental rates. You can't use spaces in a range name, so I just run the words together. Be sure to press enter. And you can always verify that that worked by clicking the down arrow in your name box and then clicking on whatever the range name is and see if it goes to that position. We want to name this cell Sales Tax Rate, and I'll just do that manually. And then they want to name these two cells in column H with the names that are in the left. So we'll do this one more time. Create from selection, left column, click OK. Now if I click in the cell, it should say charge per day, and this one is charge per mile. I've got my screen short, so that's why you're not seeing the whole thing, but that looks like we're good. That's in step 3. We're going to do in step 4 a validation rule for cell B5. So let's put our cursor in B5, and this is where we'll select the type of car. That validation will include these types of cars. So with your cursor in B5, go to Data, Data Validation, and allow a list, and the source of that list will be these cells, A12 through A16. They do want to have an input message, so you'll click on this area. The title of the message is Type of Car. The message itself will say click arrow to select the type of car. And then the error alert style will be a stop message. The title will be invalid type, and the message itself will say invalid type. Use arrow to select type and click OK. Now you can see that you have to use a down arrow to select the type of car. So we'll just, for the moment, we'll leave it as compact. In cell B6, they also want some data validation. They want to allow only whole numbers between 1 and 29. So we'll go to Data, Validation, and our settings will be whole numbers between 1 and 29. And then again, they want an input message and an error alert, and I'll leave those for you to fill out. In cell B7, they want to do data validation for the number of miles driven. It can be a whole number between 1 and 5,000. So with our cursor in B7, Data, Validation, settings are whole number between 1 and 5,000. And then again, they want an input message and an error alert, and I'll leave that for you to do. Okay, moving on to step 5, they want to enter formulas based on the following defined names. So in cell F6, that's our first one, this is going to be the customer name. So this is going to be equal to cell B4, and since that has a range name, that's equal to customer name. Right now it's 0 because we don't have a customer name in. Type of car is going to be equal to B5, the range name type of car, and right now that's equal to compact. The number of days rented will be equal to B6, and the miles driven will be equal to B7. In cell H9, they want us to put a formula that will look up the charge per day. That's going to look it up in this table over here that we named rental rates. So we start with equal VLookup. Open your paren, The first argument is what to look up, or the lookup value. Well, we'll be looking up a compact, or what's in cell B5, comma. The next argument is where's the table? Where should we look for this charge? And that table is here. I can highlight it, which puts in the rental rates, or I could have typed rental rates, comma. The next argument is what column number to bring back out of that table. Well, if I want the charge per day, this is column 1. I want it to bring back column 2. So I'll type a 2 for my column number. And the last argument is the true-false argument. And you want false so that you have an exact match. All right, it turns out to be $39. And yes, indeed, a compact is $39 a day. Now we need to do the same thing, but to look up the charge per mile. So we'll essentially use the same function. Equal VLookup. We're looking up compact, or B5. We're looking in that rental rates table. We're bringing back column 3 this time, though, the charge per mile. And again, we want the false argument. You can pause the video if you need to examine that formula. And yes, a compact rents for 23 cents a mile. Next, we want to calculate the actual rental. The rental would be equal to, and I'll start with a paren, the days rented times the charge per day. And then we want to add to that the miles driven times the charge per mile. And press enter. And right now we don't have any days driven, but once we have data in there, that's going to work. Now our sales tax is going to be based on this sales tax rate, 4.5%. So this is going to be equal to cell F12, where we'll have our total rental, times the 4.5%, and of course it's been range named, so it would be times sales tax rate. And then the amount due would be the total of the rental, or F12, plus the state tax, or F13. Now if we put some information in here, we should see how this works. So let's start out with our customer, Miles Fast, good name. And Miles Fast is going to rent an intermediate car, and he's going to rent that for 4 days. And it turns out that he's driving 450 miles. So once we plug in this information, then our functions and formulas over in this area make up a customer bill for him. This is the end of this portion, the first half of tutorial 8.